Hello and welcome to the weekend review from the Voiro podcast. This is season 3.
Woohoo!
What does that mean? How many have we done so far?
Maths. 13 into 2.
Oh, no.
26. Hey, man.
Episode 27, not counting the one we threw in the trash.
Yes.
Technically 28, but very happy to be here. How are you? We are entering December. You have just finished watching White Lotus. What's going on in your life?
I must tell you that I have never appreciated podcasts this much. So there are a lot of shows that are going on right now, right? You have White Lotus happening. You also have FIFA that's going on. So there's a divide in attention in terms of audiences. And you and I were not even in sync while watching the episode. So I had nobody to talk to about, and I was sick. So I got to watch, and I took that day off not to watch the White Lotus
Hey,
finale.
man, I've done it.
But I was really sick that day. So therefore I watched it with everybody else. And I was desperate to discuss the entire episode with somebody. And I couldn't find anybody there. And I remembered you telling me about Kara Swisher's podcast
About
after
Succession,
Succession, right?
yeah.
And I said, man, there has to be a podcast that's tearing apart White Lotus. So I went, I Googled, I found this on Spotify. I think it's a Spotify original. And it's called, what's it called?
Look it up. I
Yeah, I'm
remember the Succession one was called HBO, and it would drop an hour after the episode. Kavita is looking through her phone.
Oh my goodness.
You showed it to me just this morning.
Yes.
What is it? Players Tribune. Cricket lover.
Just
What is
edit
it?
this, man. Yes. It's called the Prestige TV Podcast. I really like it. It's a bunch of people, 3 of them, maybe 2 of them, who rip apart, various headlining shows from the sex lives of college girls to Wednesday to our favorite White Lotus season 2.
Oh, man, all the shows I watch.
Yes. And, one of the things they said, and that's something that I really, really think is true, that HBO has consistently delivered hit after hit after hit on shows, right? Starting from Game of Thrones to White Lotus, they have always hit, people on this vein that is fully off center, but is deep, and it is maniacal in the way you want it to sort of lead into a show, which I feel is where most content will go today. I'm hearing about Avatar 2 and
It drops this week.
yeah. And how this has been the best scripted show, and they drop some 9 hours of footage to be edited. So it's going to be there are going to be things that are going to move us, right? And which is going to be more where we are willing to wait for the next episode, or we want to go to a big movie theater and watch. It's these experiences that we're not really getting otherwise, because we're constantly on this. We're constantly on a high in terms of content. You're skimming through Instagram. Lina apparently doesn't have Instagram, so her productivity is really high. Mine is shit. But the point is that it's like drinking tea, right? Or drinking coffee in our culture. You will have like 11 o'clock chai time, but you're constantly giving yourself a little bit of a sugar high through the day. So your meals at the end of the day have to be really exciting for you to go out for them. I feel that's the way content is also going to go.
Yeah,
and I'm excited about that.
I loved White Lotus. And I was just telling you yesterday how we live in the greatest of times because of podcasts.
Yes.
And how we can get into the minds of some of the greatest thinkers on the planet.
Yep.
And I think for anyone who loves content, we live in very exciting times. There's always
For
something
sure.
being thrown our way. Let's round up the things that we read and talked about this week. Starting with our favorite red logo in the world, Netflix.
Da-dum.
There was an article that was shared and everyone was talking about it on our Slack channel about how Netflix, oh my God, had to return advertisers' money. What's your first reaction?
One, they didn't have to return the money, right? They chose to return the money, which I think is a good thing. We were talking about this as well. I initially was shocked. I was like, man, this is going to set a precedent in the market. Should everybody else now return money? Is this going to be something that advertisers are going to hold against people? Look, Netflix doesn't have a track record. So they can't say, I'll make good over the next couple of shows. They don't have a fully built out advertising platform, and they're just about starting out. So one of the fundamental aspects of human behavior, even while buying and selling, is trust, right? And if you're willing to have a long-term play in it, I believe that this is a good move by them. It also shows that, yeah, they're learning and they want the entire industry to be forgiving. And the best way for somebody to be forgiving is that they trust you to do well the next time. and not to cheat you out of it, right? So I think it's a good move. I think they're playing on a very basic human value. Good on them. I think we can learn a lot from it. It's bizarre because it was the opposite way in the TV world, right? You would not be able to service the kind of money coming your way because of appointment viewing. And so you would always carry over the kind of commitments that you made to a customer to other shows. So there was this concept of serviceability. It's still there. So there's a lot that's going on. And we have a lot of things that we can learn from Netflix. I think the fundamental aspect is 2023 is a year of be transparent, don't bullshit.
Yeah.
And let's build for 2024
Yeah.
and make sure that you're around for 2024.
Yeah. I mean, I read 2 or 3 articles about this returning of the money that took place. In my head, I was like, I don't agree. I mean, there's another way to spin it, which is to say Netflix sold out. Right? Why are we spinning it in a manner and saying, oh my God, they only delivered 80%. They don't even have enough viewership in there. What? This is a super positive way to spin it. I feel like the PR engine is waiting to bring Netflix down. Also, this is growth, right? They're just about starting. They are sitting on the first tranche of users who have either switched to the ad-supported tier or who have signed up for the ad-supported tier for the first time. And they had more demand than supply. Great. I don't see this as a negative at all. And there is the trust factor. Also, this is the digital world. As much as they are trying to attract linear dollars, this is not the linear world. This is somewhere between this is the data-driven world, as Kieran O'Kane from First Party Capital would say. So the behavioral aspects are not going to replicate the way things were on linear. They're going to be closer to things the way things were on digital.
Also, media buyers are no longer from that generation. We were talking about this in some other podcast, right? Some of them have never even seen linear television. They don't know what it is to wait or miss something. Everything is on demand or something that they can actually either even record and go back to. But
yeah. So the stat that came my way said they delivered 80% of the expected audience that they were going to get. Checks out. Typical under-delivery in the digital world is what, 15
to
12,
20%?
15%? Yeah, it's fine. Good on you, Netflix.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. It's like, if you wanted money to buy an iPhone in 2012, you couldn't sometimes. You had to wait outside the store and there would still be no iPhone for you.
Yep.
I don't know if that's it's my way of looking at it.
No, I think it's a good move. It's a good move because this is a good way to build a solid business, right? And you want to really walk the walk and talk the talk.
Yeah,
So
I like
that's
you,
good.
Netflix. And I'm still
They're
watching.
listening to us, Anand.
Yeah.
They are. They're like clapping while they're saying yes.
I'm sure Reed Hastings is happy about this.
Yes.
About the fact that we have spoken positively about what they're doing. Also, I'm still watching The Crown after coming back from Buckingham Palace. So I'm on season 3 now. I thought you should know.
Excellent.
Okay, topic number 2. Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard, King, and the FTC. News broke out this week that, as expected, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission in the US, has moved to sue Microsoft and block their acquisition of Activision. Yeah, that's right.
Say it fast.
I have a question for you, which is, there is a parallel in our industry. Of course, yes, the games industry is also moving in the direction of monetization, and Reed Hastings himself at the Dealbook conference, which was far more prominent because of Sam Back, SBF, and his presence at the conference. But Reed Hastings made a very rare appearance, where he talked about games. Just to wrap up what is happening, the acquisition was announced in Jan. They projected that they would close the acquisition mid-2023. So they're very well aware of the fact that it'll take them a long time to close a $69 billion acquisition. Microsoft was moving to acquire not just Activision, but ABK. It's Activision, Blizzard, and King. Activision is known for primarily Call of Duty, and that franchise. Blizzard is known for, I think,
Candy Crush.
No, Diablo and World of Warcraft, and King is known for Candy Crush.
Yeah.
And some say that the Candy Crush acquisition is actually the one that this rests upon, because Microsoft doesn't have a mobile presence. I'm not a big gamer, but I'm also somewhat of a gamer, so it could be argued in both directions, which could also mean that this is a disclaimer to tell everybody that I don't know what I'm talking about here. But the word on the street is that Microsoft knew that this was going to be hard. The FTC has historically loved to like poke Microsoft and bring antitrust cases right from the early 90s when Bill Gates famously had to answer to the FTC. Lina Khan, who's the chairman of the FTC right now, is gunning for big tech. The FTC has had a history of allowing big tech to become bigger, of not coming in the way of things like Facebook and WhatsApp, Facebook and Instagram, and just not coming in the way of acquisitions that are potentially going to kill competition. And so they have basically thrown their hat into the ring. Now, there are many reasons why they are trying to block the acquisition, but the primary one is they are afraid that Microsoft will take all of these game studios and all the games and make them exclusive at some point and force them into a subscription service that they have, which is Xbox Game Pass, which I believe has been doing really well. But some believe that that will never be the case because these are already revenue generating games, and when you spend $70 billion on an acquisition, you're not going to kill the revenue stream that underpins the valuation. It is value destructive. Two is Microsoft has already tried to signal to the market that they will not do it. They have said they won't do it. They have extended a 10-year contract to Sony, which is huge. 10 years is a long time. The entire industry will change. But nobody seems to buy it. Peter Kafka spent an entire episode breaking this down where he said, here is the noob version of what this acquisition is all about. Ben Thompson of STRATECHERY put down a beautiful article that dates back to Atari and Nintendo in the 60s and 70s, and about how the history of gaming has always tried to figure out who makes hardware and who makes software and whether it should be exclusive, and this is just history repeating itself. So Kavita, what do you think is the equivalent of all of this in our industry? Who would have to acquire whom for it to be a similar concept? Because if you think about it, you could argue that it's a very simple play where someone's building hardware and someone's making software or content, and one is trying to acquire the other and make it exclusive on that hardware platform. In our industry, we have studios, we have OEMs, we have connected TV distribution systems, we have content owners. Who would have to acquire whom for it to be similar to what's happening here?
Wow. I was not expecting that question, and I'm not prepared to answer that question. But let's give it a try. So in our industry, give me a lead, as in where do you want to go with this?
I'll give you one example. Netflix and Microsoft. Given the deal they're already in, all roads seem to point to the fact that at some point Microsoft will acquire Netflix. Is that the same?
See, traditionally, we've seen the same things happen in the past with studios and content creators and directors. Everybody wants to vertically integrate at some point in time. You'll see Paramount doing the same thing. You'll see Warner Brothers doing the same thing. You'll have studio lots and studio owners actually creating and owning television channels, movie theaters, movie makers, and even content rights, right? So it's of no specific surprise that Microsoft wants to do this. They want to get this whole Activision King, Blizzard King acquisition going, right? They have it's a little funny because it seems a little bit like a witch hunt, if you ask me, because when Brad Smith had actually gone ahead and gotten consent to make sure that Call of Duty was given away to for other publishers, for Sony to be able to access it, I think. And it was and just after that the FTC slapped them and kind of sued them with this entire thing for in terms of trying to be monopolistic. But all said and done, I think the American economy in general, from a tech perspective, is trying to learn from their past mistakes. We see a lot of issues because of the fact there are so many monopolies. You look at where Amazon is today. You look at where Google is today, where Microsoft used to be, right? They don't want to get into that space because trying to encourage free market after that becomes very, very difficult, because the power of money and the barrier to entry starts to become so much higher for even somebody wants to start up afresh, that it spoils any kind of innovation, right? So I think we will see a lot of this happening because this is the way the market functions. And if you are Activision, you would really want to be part of this entire Microsoft thing, not because of the money, but there is a massive future together, right? Microsoft seems to be earnest in the fact that they want to make it an open access platform. good for competition, good for current business. Similarly, in our industry, we see this happening where it's a tired kind of a refrain where you have game rights, right? Like live sporting rights going from publisher to publisher. They're trying to consolidate, people are trying to buy. We see, therefore, various reasons we see companies merging and, having to merge with each other because they want to survive. I think from a larger perspective, this is not new, right? You will see this playing out over and over again. History is constantly repeating itself. It's just good business. And yes, I think the Competitions Commission must be looking for things that can affect macro trends. That's their job. But I think it's Microsoft's job to make sure it pushes through. This whole thing is going to get delayed to 2024, and they're going to spend the rest of 2023 trying to fight this out. But in that time, gamers will game, and consumers are not that affected at the end of the day. And I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing at the end of the day that people are questioning these things, and I'm hoping it'll all find its way down to somewhere where it is in the favor of new entrants, because that's what we're trying to protect here from an economy perspective.
Yeah. STRATECHERY now has a podcast, which is now bundled with the subscription, which means I now get it with what I've subscribed to. And they had a very funny take on this. So they said, it's pretty clear that is Microsoft a big evil company? Yeah, possibly, like most big companies. Maybe not evil, but big, shrewd company.
Why not?
Yeah, all is fair. This still seems to be a bit of a reach for the FTC, because if you're trying to not allow anti-competitive behavior to pan out, this might not be the right place, right? Horizontal acquisitions are usually frowned upon. Vertical acquisitions, where it's within the supply chain.
And it's happened in the past. There is no precedent for this having been blocked.
Yeah. Also, are consumers really happy about too much competition? It's funny because you and I are sitting here saying, oh my God, there's so many OTT platforms to subscribe to. I hate the competition. Why can't they just consolidate?
Yep.
Right? So it's funny.
But also, if it gets consolidated and there's a huge price barrier, you'll also feel targeted. If it was something that you could have gotten free and somebody's asking you to pay like an enormous amount of money, you will feel targeted because you're like, I have no other option but to pay for this stuff.
Yep.
And so there's a lot to be unpacked in terms of why this is happening. But all we know is this is delayed now. So I think they've literally bought time because they want to figure out whether this is going to be good or bad.
I don't know if it's delayed. They already projected it'll take a year and a half. So maybe they accounted for this.
No, but it'll take till 2024 because they have to fight this case out now. They are all in limbo. They have to come to some kind of conclusion after being sued, right? So everything is only after the due process of law. So nothing's going to happen before that.
Interesting times. Okay. As we roll around to the end of 2022, oh my goodness.
Dude.
Here is a plug for our upcoming white paper on the 2023 trends in AdTech that Lina has been burning the midnight oil to put together. She's interviewed many people. We've had some interesting thoughts fly around our own airwaves. I really enjoyed reading the Currents. Take the Current is a newsletter from the Trade Desk where they talked about how CTV is going to be much bigger than anyone expected in 2023. They specifically said, we are now pushing beyond the point where 50% of spend will be on digital. And in fact, we are moving towards a point where 100% of spend will be data-driven. And of all the trends in 2023, that's the one that I am particularly excited about because it's going to be, for the first time, a fundamental shift in how everybody thinks about how they spend on ads. What is your take on 2023? Are you excited about this white paper? Do you have any favorite trends among the ones that you are seeing out in the market?
Yes, it's no secret that I am a big CTV fan, right? It is absolutely no secret. I believe the future is going to be linear and non-linear. It's not going to be CTV, podcast, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be linear, non-linear. The linear side is going to be spot-based, rating-based. It's going to be one after the other. It's going to be appointment viewing. All of the stuff that they're doing where they're carrying repackaged content on new CTV channels that are being carried by all the CTV operators like Samsung and LG and all the other TV guys who are giving you connected television will replace what we currently know as linear television and appointment viewing, where there will be advertising there. And then everything else is non-linear, data-driven, like you keep talking about. It's not going to be called CTV or it's not going to be called on OTT, etc. one of the things that I feel like is going to go through a churn, and some things that most television companies and content creators will have to really think about really hard in terms of their revenue is that in the past, you would actually get a fee by an affiliate network that carried your channel, right? And that fee was a considerable part of for pay TV to the channel in itself. But today you see that no, Samsung is not paying Hotstar to carry it on their OS for us to be able to discover it, right? If we do have a relationship in terms of payment, it's directly with the app in itself. If it's a free app and it has ads on it, it's just there for the taking. So there is going to be, there's going to be some shift in the fact that there's a lot of affiliate revenue that's going to go away. It's going to take some time for it to dry out, and TV channels will now need to figure out new revenue plans where affiliate revenue is not going to be a part of it, not going to be a huge chunk of it. It's a significant chunk, and they need to figure that out. A lot of them are hugely advertising supported, like your Pluto TV and so on and so forth. And there is going to be some consolidation there as well, because wanting, like for example, why would I choose a Samsung TV over an LG TV? Maybe there'll be some apps and some things that I find in different ways on these particular devices or TV devices, etc. So there will be change over there. And like I was saying earlier, linear and non-linear, linear will go through some renaissance. It's not going to die. It's going to go through some renaissance. It has its uses. It has its place. It's going to shrink because it's a thriving industry still, and they're huge wheels. They turn slowly, and it's going to take some time for that momentum to die down. But concepts of like the second order effects of what's happening in the non-linear world from an omni-channel perspective, that's going to be something that we've got to watch out for. So being able to toggle across different types of platforms from a data-driven perspective, the agility that every publisher or content owner needs to show in terms of running different subscription packages or advertising programs is something that everybody will have to sort of start flexing their muscle on. I'm excited about 2023.
So as am I, and we will keep this podcast going through 2023. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our team for supporting us and producing this podcast, Santosh, Lina, and Gautam. Thank you so much for listening in to the Voiro podcast, the AdTech gossip channel.
Yeah, we were called that. We're going to own it.
I quite like it.
All right then, look out for the trends paper and let us know what you think. Bye.